I want to put these on.
That's exactly probably what it is, more than likely.
Okay. Well,
What's going on? What's going on? Let me adjust a couple things.
All right.
Let me see if I can actually play our intro. How about that?
Yeah.
How about we give Sweet Pea her just due?
All right. I'm sure she'd like that.
Oops.
Whatever that is, just let it out. Improving to greater than 6 miles on Friday morning.
Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Breezes seem to whisper dream a little dreamer.
All right. Listen, first off, welcome everybody to Community Beacon. It's Michael Seville, your real estate consultant, along with Joel Simmons, the Motivational Keynote Speaker. First off, let me apologize to the brother before we get on, because I was going over some of our marketing stuff that was posted on Instagram, and I think that we posted it on Facebook as well. And it says on there, it says guest speaker. This is not the guest speaker. This is the co-host. So we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. Joe's a co-host. He's here to stay. He's not a guest speaker. He's an every Friday at 6:30 speaker. So, I just want to apologize to Joe for making that mistake when I saw it earlier. But by the time I saw it, it was a little bit too late to correct. But we are here. And I see Monique said, she wrote in a comment that she was looking forward to this. So I'm excited about it. I know she's excited about it. I hope they checked in. If you haven't checked in now, we'll check in later. We're going to talk about marriage. And this started, what was it, Friday? Or what did we kind of?
Yeah, this was a Friday. Last Friday when we dug into relationships, and it just kind of like, it started to expand. And at some point in time, we got to marriage. And that's when you started to pull back. You're like, all right, that's a whole nother show.
It's a whole other show, and I'm gonna pull back here. I'm definitely in the passenger. So I might be in the back seat actually. I'm gonna be in the back seat. I'm gonna be in the back seat with some questions as to where it is that we're going. I'm excited about it. If you're checking in, please like and share. This is gonna be very great. I know Joe's been working on this all week. And it's been on my mind all week, but we got some exciting and good for you to hear. So share, subscribe, share, follow. I'll put Joe's information up here. Of course, most of you are maybe following from my Facebook Live book. I know some of you all are coming from Joe's LinkedIn profile. But Joe's also on TikTok as well. But here's his LinkedIn information. I will also put that in the comment section, and I'll just, while I put that in the comment section, I'll put up his TikTok. So if for you young guys, you young people, young at heart, but I mean young at heart, not necessarily has to do with age, that are on TikTok, because I'm not. I'm kind of seasoned. I'm trying to figure it out. But you can check out Joel on TikTok, man. So let's get into it, man. It's 6:35 is the hour. Brother, where do we start, man?
Well, first, I just want to say, happy night to everybody. Don't want to say good night because it's kind of like remind you of saying have a good night's sleep. But how's everybody out there doing? Mike, it's always good to see you, man. Always good to speak with you. I'm interested in the comments. You said Monique put something in there. This time I'm not able to see the comments. So
I think, excuse me, I think it was part of when I looked on my notifications, I saw her write something. So it may have came from the Facebook marketing that we did, so it probably came from a different post, but it was essentially about this. She's waiting to hear in regards to this marriage thing. This thing.
Okay. I like it. That's awesome. We're doing some big things too. I'm actually looking to get into that Facebook as well. I got somebody working on some of this stuff. I had to get some help, Mike. I needed some help, man. So I got some help, and I have some things coming up soon so that I can be able to, stick with you on that Facebook side, because everything that I got is underneath saving lives. So
right,
I got to get it so it's not just underneath saving lives anymore. Man, you got an under construction thing going on over there.
Yeah, I had to lift my laptop up so I can be more aligned with the screen. Yeah, we're working on that. We're building it as we fly, brother.
I like it. Yeah. So last week, we kind of left off on relationships, and relationships, they start to, we ended up going into marriage. And I mentioned that I was going to talk about the 3 C's. And as you were talking about it earlier today, I wanted to make sure that I gave a good presentation. There's actually 4 C's that I want to mention on tonight. 4 C's that I want to mention. The 4 C's, I want everyone out there to understand these things. The 4 C's, and they're pillars. This is not foundational, so that's got to be understood. It's not foundational. The four C's are pillars, and I want you to think about it, because I want to explain this in terms of like a building, right? So when we start talking about the 4 C's, we're talking about pillars, something that is able to help keep structure standing, right? So before you even get to the pillars, you got to have good ground, good foundation. And let's just glance at that real quick.
Please.
Let's glance.
Please.
Please. Right. So let's glance at grounds first, and then we're going to go into we'll build up to the pillars, and then we're going to reel it back in, before we go into roofing the structure and decorative means and all of those other fancy things that people put inside their homes, because relationship is about building. You're building a relationship. So grounds, what does that mean? Okay, so now Jesus, when he gave us this understanding of, he gave us a specific type of understanding. A sower went out, and when the sower went out, he went out and he dropped seeds. And some seeds fell on stony ground. Some seeds fell in a place where the birds were able to come and pick up that seed and devour it. Some seeds fell in thorny ground, right? And when the seeds eventually grew in the thorny ground, they were choked by the thorns. When they grew in the stony ground, they didn't have root, so they died when the sun came about. And then birds ate the rest of them. And then there was some seeds that fell in good ground. And when they fell in good ground, they were able to give back. They multiplied, because the ground was good. So what do I mean by grounds when it comes down to relationship? Well, as I said before, first we want to start off, it's a self-actualization thing before we even get to the relationship. So if the grounds represent your heart and your mind, right? 18 inches separate your heart and your mind, and a whole lot happens in those 18 inches, right in between those 18 inches. More happens there than it does in all the rest of the world for you as an individual. More happens there, because right now we're talking about emotional ties. We're talking about thought process. We're talking about intent. We're talking about, the development of integrity. We're talking about our truth is right there. So when we're talking about grounds, it's like if you're going to build a relationship, and we're going to call the relationship tonight a building, a house. If you're going to build a house, a relationship house, which means that you're going to enter into a contract with somebody else. If you're going to do that, you have got to have good grounds. If you don't take care of your grounds, then you stand a chance of, down here in Florida, we understand the word sinkhole. Depending on who's watching this and where they're watching it, you may not understand what a sinkhole is. But basically what it means is that there was shifting sand underneath a structure, whether it was a house, a building, or, if it was a road, there was moving grounds underneath whatever they built. And because of that, over time, wear and tear and weight being laid upon the structure, the grounds began to shift. They began to slide. And when they shifted and slide, they caused a pocket of air underneath. And that pocket ended up causing for a collapse of that structure. So when you're talking about building a relationship and you don't have good grounds, remember going back to that parable, if you got stones in your yard, you're not able to build level ground. Your house will be lopsided. If you're overrun by weeds, you can't do anything with that ground until you tear all of that stuff down. So the first thing that we have to do in order to build a great marriage is we have to build a great self. Everything starts between these 18 inches, from the mind to the heart. You can't be overly empathic and you can't be overly analyzing. You have to be a balanced individual. You've got to have a little bit of both. And you need to know who you are. It's not so much about knowing, being concerned, oh man, I'm bad with money. Well, okay, there's a lot of people that are bad with money. It doesn't mean you can't get married, but you have to actualize that. You got to understand, I'm bad with money. You have to be able to talk with the person that you're marrying. All the men out there, you getting ready to marry this lady and you're terrible with money. You cannot hide that. There's got to be a certain amount of integrity that is inside of you that says, listen, if I'm the one who's in charge of the checkbook because that's what she thinks a man is supposed to do, then I will lose every dime because I've done it to myself. And so you're looking for, that's your sinkhole. It may be 5 years. It may be 10 years. You sitting back, you're doing great. For the first 3 years, you're like, man, bobbing and weaving because she's brought money and you got an influx. Your money, it just went up. You're like, yeah, baby, we like this. And now you want to do vacations and stuff because you recognize you got a whole lot of money. But what you don't realize, or what you're not considering is that you weren't good with money in the first place. So you're not watching the checkbook. You're not watching the bank account. You're not looking on your app. And next thing you know, you're broke. Not only are you broke, but you've gotten a whole bunch of credit, and now you owe more than you make. And next thing you know, your wife is looking at you and she's saying, how come my credit card bounced when I went to Publix to get baby formula?
So, and if you don't mind me interjecting, what I'm hearing, just to clarify, is that in order to have good ground, in order to, because we're kind of going on before we get to the pillars, we're going along, we're getting the foundation correct. One needs to know oneself. That's what I'm hearing. Like, you need to know you, or as far as you can know yourself at that time, or at least be doing that. So you need to be, because I guess we're always learning ourselves, right? Like, I think that's it could be a lifelong process if a person, so I think a wise person does, but you need to be whole. So you know yourself. Let's just say that the lady or the man, he knows himself. What does that do in regards to the vetting process of the wife? How do you know someone else knows themselves? That kind of deal. Like, so you being a man, you knowing yourself, getting into this marriage or about to become committed with a person, and you know yourself to be, whatever, your drawbacks or your positives. What about the other person? Can you possibly figure for that?
So, excellent question, right? So, I mean, I would definitely tell you all, come see me.
Okay.
you guys,
hold on,
you and your girlfriend, come see me, and I'll help you out. But go ahead.
How early do we need to see you? Is it like on the first date? Is like we go.
Okay.
I need to let you come see somebody real quick. Is that where we should start?
All right, hold on. I'll put you in the schedule, man.
We gotta go see something real quick.
Okay. All right. So now here you have it, right? When you and I like the word you use, vetting. I mean, it's definitely a business term. Maybe it's not something that we're really utilizing when we're seeking out somebody to spend our life with. And so think about this also before I answer that question. Many times it appears in this world today, and through the many people that I discuss discuss relationships with, and the many people that I'm helping, a lot of people are not really out there looking for that lasting relationship. There are people that are, though. I know I got a good buddy of mine right now who he is 100% into having a good relationship, 100% faithful. Not married, but just 100% faithful, and he is looking for the reciprocation from his significant other, from his lady. Nonetheless, there's some that are looking for this, and there's some that are not. So if you are looking for this type of relationship, then you've got to go ahead and work your grounds right then. If you hadn't started to, you got to work it. Now, as far as it goes for vetting, and what I mean by work it is you got to start, doing the work to figure out what kind of individual, what kind of man you are, what kind of woman you are, so that you can know yourself. Because once you enter into that relationship, it ain't just about you anymore. You are not the number one priority. The relationship is the number one priority. And the marriage is the number one priority because the two of you all have become one. So how do you vet somebody? You got to check them out. And I think we talked about this before, and I think this is how we got to this conversation. So that was a good segue,
Right.
Mike. People like to do dates where they take people out to the movie theaters, or I don't know, a bar or a restaurant, or even to their home, having these little type of intimate gatherings and things. But what you want to do is you want to enter into each other's lives. Okay. Before you start to make these dynamic commitments, know their mama, know their daddy, know their sisters, get to know their friends, know grandparents, you know. When you start to know people and you start to hang around their in crowd, everybody can't put on their opera mask every day. They can't put their mask on every day. Some people are just, they're just real. They're just honest through and through. And they will reveal the person that you are digging into, the person that you are that you are courting. They will start to reveal certain things, and that individual is going to have to reveal certain things too. And we talked about this also. Mind your sixth sense. You got to mind it. You got to mind those gut instincts, those things that say, what just happened right there? When you get that what just happened right here, you got to investigate that. Yeah, it may not sound like it's kosher right then, but once again, if you allow for something like that to slide by, and next thing you know, you're saying I do, she's saying I do, and then a month, 5 months, a year, 3 years later, there's a sinkhole underneath your house, and it's pulling down everything that you got going on there. Maybe you have other individuals that are now a part of this, the dynamic of the family. It's not just husband or wife, but it's become a family, and a sinkhole is there, and multiple casualties are now involved. So you got to, oh, hello, Maritza.
Yeah, Maritza Cosgrove. Maritza's awesome.
All right. Nice to see you. So you're going to have to do that. You got to go ahead and do that. And that vetting process is imperative, fellas. It's imperative, ladies. And it is what it is. And there's no need to hide it. Be real about it. It's about integrity. So when you are, I see you, Mike. When you're fixing up your own grounds, there are certain things that you're going to gain. And one of those things that you will gain besides self-awareness is you're going to gain confidence. You're going to gain confidence. And with that confidence, you will be able to tell somebody exactly who you are, and then you can expect the reciprocation of that same thing. And when it doesn't happen, then you may be looking at, you may be thinking in your mind, maybe this isn't it. It may not be, it may be, those are things that you're going to have to test and see for yourself.
So I think so this is so important, especially paying attention to all the little details, not just you being solo with this person for X amount of time and just kind of showing up and saying, hey, we're getting married, no matter how long the courtship lasts, because like you said, a person can be a person in front of you and then a completely different person in front of their friends, etc. So that to me is and when you were talking, I started thinking in my mind about certain situations. I was like, yep, that, tell some certain telltale signs. And then you often hear, and when the marriages, more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. I think it's like 52 or 54%. So most marriages are ending in divorce. One of the things that you hear is like this person became a completely different person. Some people would say, and I want you, and I really want you to get down before I have a bunch of these different questions. So I'll wait to the end, because maybe you'll answer my question as you go along. But yeah. So I'm digging the vetting process is, but I do have one question in regard to the vetting process. I think there's a difference between dating and like courting. Like a distinction between. I think people are out. There's a lot of people who are just dating, and these are the people who aren't necessarily looking for that long-term marriage-minded relationship. I think the courting process, when you court somebody, and here words matter, right? So I think like a lot of these distinctions need to come in regards to separating the dating from the courting, because you got some people who are steadily courting and a lot of people who are dating. So my question is the dating process can last forever. What do you think is a good amount of time for courting before marriage? Like, what do you think is there like a time frame for that, or is it just obviously it's kind of contextual. Hey, what's going on, Maya?
All right, all right. How you doing? How you
All the
doing?
way
All
from
the way from
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Yes.
My cousin Maya from Jamaica. What's going on, Maya?
Yeah. All right. Now, do you have more to that, or you want me to go ahead
No, go
and?
ahead. Please answer. I'm curious.
Okay. So number one, off top, there isn't a time limit when you're talking about courting. Let's just rewind the tape just a little bit, because you made a great distinction between dating and courting, and I was alluding to that earlier. Here's the deal. If you are looking, and this is what we're talking about, looking for a relationship. We're talking about, somebody who's looking to be married, or to have this lasting relationship. That's what we're developing. This topic is developing into a marriage, right? So this individual is looking for the right one. Now there are times when people are dating, and they end up falling into like this very cozy type of relationship, because remember, a relationship is like this. It is basically a connection, and a connection simply means being joined. That's it, being joined. Me and Mike, we got a relationship. That's my brother. You know what I mean? We are joined through this brotherhood. That's what it is. It's a relationship. I ain't courting Mike. I ain't that type of dude. And I got my own wife, but I just ain't that kind of guy. You know what I mean? So
Mike's not that kind of guy either. Go ahead.
Thank you. So
Let's get it. Go ahead, brother.
yeah, let's get it straight.
Let's get it
right?
straight.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So, so a connection, when people are like, oh man, I met this dude, I met this girl, and they're like, oh, but they're like, did you like them? Like, I don't know. It was this awesome connection, like, yeah, it's a connection because y'all met and you agreed on something. Okay, that's good. That does not mean you are meant to be together for the rest of your life.
Say it again.
So just because we meet people and we end up finding these connections, it does not mean that we are designed to be with each other for eternity, And marriage is like that step where we're saying, okay, this is my soulmate. This is my one and above all. Underneath God, there's nobody else but this person. Because remember, like, for those of y'all that are Bible bound, like I am, the scripture teaches us when Adam saw Eve, that he looked at her, and God brought now who, first of all, who created Adam?
God.
Right, created Adam. So we should be able to consider that because God gathered the dust of the earth and put them together, and he blew the breath of life into Adam, and Adam became a living man, that God is Adam's father. All right? So now the wedding vows that Adam committed himself to when God brought him his wife. I mean, this is the exact same thing that happens inside of a marriage, right? The husband, the father brings the daughter down and offers the daughter to a man, right? What he said was, for this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife. Now that's deep. Somebody out there think about that. Because Adam was saying before God, for this reason shall I leave my father, God, and my mother, and I will cleave to my wife Eve. So this is huge. So if those two are no longer together, then how can they ever, walk as one? It's a big, big, big deal. So when we go back to dating versus courting, we are looking at it as, it's not about we've got this burning desire to go jump out of airplanes, and I love doing jet skis, and they love the same, meal that I love, and we both got cats. It ain't about that. It's not about that.
Right.
So go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm listening. I won't keep going.
Okay. And that's where we're headed with this, So there are those people that are out there dating, and while they're dating, they end up finding someone that they believe is Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. That's what they believe. Okay. At that very moment, remember I said, you got to check out your sixth sense. Check that gut feeling out. Don't check it at the door and leave it outside.
But the saying is love is blind. So you got when you're in close proximity with a person, and I don't care who, almost always you're in close proximity with a person for X amount of time, certain things start to develop, especially if people are being intimate. Because let's be honest, nowadays that people are being intimate even prior to marriage. So the intimacy is happening, the constant being together, getting together. And I used to say, to kill you faster than love is habits. Like, so people make that person, they become habits. Like these things just happen. And, if you're away from this person for a long time, then you miss that habit. And so because of that habit, you can tend to not pay attention to that sixth sense. I think that's probably happens in the majority of cases where these things go awry. Is that, well, I know there's a couple reasons why these things go awry, but one of the reasons why is because of this bond that you develop with this person over X amount of time. So that, I guess that kind of led to me asking that question as well, as like, how long does courting last? Because it's essentially over a long period of time, you can start to say, well, I'm already with this person, and start to overlook a lot of these different these things that they may have, these things that may be triggers or red flags or what have you.
Beautiful. And I'm glad you said it that way. That was perfect. It brought us right back to where we need to be at, and answering that question. Again, it's not amount of time. Time and chance happen to all people. And I'm glad that you brought us right back there, because here's the deal. If I'm taking care of myself, and she's taking care of herself, as far as self-actualizing and self-awareness and confidence development, and willingness to clean myself up and to make sure that I am a upstanding individual, and that I am worthy to be somebody else's, because I can't, I'm unable to do with her like I can do with me.
Right.
She's got to do that on her own.
Right.
So me entering into an agreement, and thinking I'm going to change her because, we got intimate and man, that was fire. It doesn't work like that. That may be the only thing that was fire. As a matter of fact, after that fire, there may be a different type of fire, the type that burns you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word love, and I'm a big fan of love. I believe in love 100%, but just by the definition, love is a strong affection. That's what it is. And it arises between kinship and personal ties. So I believe in love, but as you mentioned, love can be blinding, or is,
lust can as well. So lust can be blinding.
And lust is, the inordinate desire, to obtain something, and so when we're looking at this, this is the reason why we're having this discussion, because love is huge. But I'm gonna tell you something: if you don't vet that individual, you could end up loving somebody who doesn't love you. Sinkholes, y'all. These are sinkholes. You're entering into an agreement with somebody, and they have they have an alternate means. They're looking for something different out of that relationship besides becoming one with you.
Let's clear that distinction up, because I think there's a difference between this. You can, like you said, you can end up with someone who doesn't love you, which is, to me, especially in the day and time that we're in. But although this precedes this day and time, but it's still, there's a school of thought which I kind of start to align to, in regards to the marriage being more so about duty on both sides, as opposed to being built upon love and happiness. Like right now, even I'm Bible bound as well, but there's a lot of preaching of this prosperity gospel that happens right now. And essentially, in prosperity gospel, you should be looking for love and happiness, especially when it comes to this relationship. Looking for love and happiness when it comes to the relationship. Once again, going back to where you are, you need to be that person where you know yourself. And anyone who knows themselves or starts to delve a little bit deeper understands that they have to make themselves happy. So if you're getting married for someone else to make you happy, or for someone else to love you, I kind of feel like that's going into you kind of running into a brick wall at some point in time. I think what happens over time is the ability to have duty, a sense of duty to one another. And I think that's the biggest thing that's lost going into a marriage, is that it's more so about this duty that, and you're going to get into it. I don't want to go too far into it, but I love that you made that distinction between the love thing. Go ahead, brother.
I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. You're hitting the nail on the head. Once you have this self-awareness, you know what? People out there, we are living in a society that is highly superficial. Highly superficial. You don't want that girl because she's not a size 2 or 3, right? Her waist isn't thin enough. Her bust isn't large enough. Okay. And ladies, you don't want that guy if he's got to have an hourglass body, and he's got to be rock hard.
Got to be 6'5".
6'5", tall, dark, and handsome.
Yes.
Act out 6'3". All right. But these things, and once again, Mike, you were talking about lust, that desire, that intense and inordinate desire, that sexual desire that comes about because people need to have, they want to taste, or they've already had a taste, and they are feeding their desire, feeding their desire. That's a whole nother podcast right there, a whole nother occasion of speaking. Nonetheless, grounds. Before you can build your foundation, you've got to check your grounds. When you know yourself, you yourself make yourself available to, as you said, Mike, you make yourself available to be loved, because you know how to love yourself. You know how to walk by yourself. You're confident in yourself. You're self-aware. You're not afraid to take chances. You understand. You respect what's going on. And you also have a clear mind and conscience. So you're able to decipher between certain things. It's not to say that somebody can't knock you off of their feet, and still be playing the game, because they can. But if you continue a vetting sequence, irregardless of how much your heart bubbles over for this individual, you will be able to find out. Here's a good way of putting it, Mike. Continue the vetting until you know that your vetting is good. Then after that, you just need to go into, your marriage counselors or whatever. People like to skip marriage counseling. Don't skip it.
Don't skip it, people.
Yeah.
Get it and listen and be. Oh, I'm sorry, brother.
No, go for it.
Listen, because you only can see as far as you can see, but we all have our blind spots. Listen. I don't know how many times people feel, oh, I got it. This person is this that. Listen, and then once again, get with someone who you trust, a marriage counselor, preferably, that you trust, that that you will take with their word for what it is, because you might love this person over the moon. And I'm curious to know, have you ever got into a situation where that person was over the moon, and you looked at that person and was like, yeah, this is not the person for you? Has that ever, or this person needs to do more work? I'm not exactly sure how that goes.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example of a counseling session that I did have that I thought was amazing. This couple is still working, is still doing an awesome job together. But to answer your question, yes, I've been there, and I'm like,
Don't do it.
no. So one of the things that I do when I do marriage and counseling is I'll tell the couple, like, hey, listen, I'm very serious about this. Number one, and I'm absolutely willing to marry you all if this is where we're going to go. Or you can, go somewhere else to marry them. But really, whoever marries you should be the same person that counsels you, right? So in this instance, I'm going to dig into your lives, and I'm going to pull out little things, you know, and sometimes I'm going to make it extremely uncomfortable in the seat that you're sitting in right now, you know, because in the middle of that uncomfortability, this truth begins to come out. A person's truth begins to come out, you know, when they're poised. It's kind of like if you're in the hallway. For young people, you're in the hallway and you're talking with somebody, and somebody bumps into your shoulder at school, and you turn around, look at them, they turn around, look at you, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're about to fight. And so you get this little gut check, and you know that the very next thing that you do is going to make a difference. Whatever happens next is going to be based off of your very next move. So what I'm doing as the counselor in that session is I'm listening and listening. And every time they're saying something, I'm taking that in, and then I help them out by going a little bit deeper. When they expose their weak spots, then we kind of open up those weak spots. And then we find out the response from both individuals. And I watch for the nonverbal clues and this type of thing, because the objective is not to divide them, but for them to actually work through something then and there, to recognize and understand, because like we said before, it's nothing wrong with the faults or the frailties that an individual has. But if they are hiding those things from the individual that they will spend the rest of their life with, sinkholes. It will absolutely show up later, and it will destroy, or it has the opportunity of destroying that family. And like I said, those 4 C's that we're talking about, those are pillars. So you're already in a relationship. These 4 C's are there to help that relationship stand, even if you entered into that relationship unaware.
Okay. So we went over the grounds, and so just understanding the grounds is you knowing yourself,
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, and now we head into the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the foundation of this relationship, this marriage relationship, or prior to marriage at this point.
So, the foundation is like, it's you and them. And this foundation has to be built on your spirit, your attitude, the individual that you are, and your truth. Not just your own truth, but the truth of you all together. Because remember that, you both have your own set of grounds, and you are merging your grounds. You're merging your grounds. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing as, two people going somewhere and buying land somewhere, and then they go out there and they began to uh, uh, clean off the lands, and now they want to lay their foundation. So Jesus had another saying where he spoke out, and he taught us about a wise man would hear the sayings of mine and build his house upon a rock. So this is what we have to be thinking about when we're putting together this marriage, is that we have cleared our grounds. We've set the ground rules of our relationship, right? Integrity, honesty, openness. So we've set those ground rules, and we understand and have accepted that the faults, the failures, the flaws of the other individual, and we've decided we're going to go forward with this. Remember, we've made that commitment now. And I don't really want to get into commitment because that's a little bit later on. But we've made that agreement now. We've made that agreement that we have accepted it. And so now we are pouring our foundation. The foundation must be set in truth with all of those attributes. That's what I mean by the spirit of us, the spirit of each individual, the attributes of each individual. So the attributes of each individual and truth. So you lay the foundation with the knowledge, okay, with this understanding. All right. This is also the fit materials, if you will. Fit materials are knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. All right. Those are fit materials. That's what you're going to develop and build your house with. All right. So your relationship house, that's how you're going to build it. That's what you're going to utilize to build it, is knowledge, understanding, wisdom. I'm not talking about love. Love is great. But let me tell you something. You better build this knowingly.
I mean, and I'm glad, listen, and I think you have to re-emphasize that throughout. But then again, this is coming from a more so of an analytical standpoint. Like, because when you start, because as men, right, we tend to be more logical and more analytical when it comes to these different things. Enter into relationships. When you start talking about contracts, especially, which marriage is essentially is a contract, and there's certain things that go along with that contract, depending on what state you're in, but definitely and overall how it affects you in your future if this contract somehow doesn't, something happens with this contract. But women tend to lean on emotions and love. Like that, like women tend to that is, that's where they come from, is that from that emotional standpoint as opposed to that thinking standpoint. So it's easy for you and I to have this conversation to say, okay, definitely brothers, or people in general, think about building it with this fit thing. And we're not talking about love, but most people are thinking about, not most, and not all, but when you think of women, they're thinking about love and having this feeling, and that's why they should get married.
So I definitely hear and attest to what you're saying, right? And that is definitely part of the grounds work. So if there was a lady sitting in here with us today, then we will be working on that, right? Because the thing is those 18 inches make all the difference between the mind and the heart. So, and we can't be 100% empath and then 100% analytical. We have to find a middle ground. And in the grounds phase, we have to understand, okay, I'm the type of person that bubbles over. The last, I'm just saying this. If this was the woman speaking and she were to say, the last joker I met, I went head over heels, and that, so and so left me. And then the one before it, and the one, okay, so you're working on your grounds. Good job. Now you're going through trial and error, and it sucks that way because there's a lot of pain. But if you have learned from it, then maybe it was worth the while. Maybe it was worthwhile. I tend to say this, and you'll probably hear this more and more often. How much would you pay for education? Because that is your education. you're paying for it with your tears. And if you ain't learned anything, then you will pay again.
My mother said, "Those who can't hear must feel."
Yeah, she's right. I love. Oh my Lord, I love your mother to this day. Still love her. Okay, so once again, that's what that is. That was the ground set, and that's what I mean by now that we're getting into. Because on the other hand, Mike, I'm entering into this thing, as the analyzer. I know that's your title, but I'm entering into this thing as the analyzer, and it's like I cannot analyze everything. I can't do it because between them 18 inches is going to make all the difference of whether or not this relationship is going to work. So yes, I'm putting it out there, with my bride to be. Hey, listen, this is the way I work. I'm cut and dry. I'm black and white. And if I dip down into the red, I'm not a happy guy. You know what I mean? But I'm laying it out because of honesty and integrity, right? This is who I am, and I know that there is a great percentage of chance for me to fail. However, lady that I'm courting,
48%.
48% chance I'm going to fail in this.
Well, 52% that you're going to fail, 48% that you're going to survive. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so 52% chance I'm going to fail. But, because I'm an analyzer, every time I fail, I'm going to get up, I'm going to change my numbers. I'm going to go from 52 to 53, 54, 55. It may take me a long time, but I'm going to get up there. So my whole point is that when I'm laying this foundation, I am laying it on top of my groundwork. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's big. That's big. This is tough. Go ahead.
Me and this lady are now laying this foundation on our groundwork. So the work that this is why you vet them. If they ain't done no groundwork and you want a lasting relationship, you may need to back out before you drive in.
That's a mic drop. Therein lies the mic drop. People are so and I'm including myself. I'm not excluding myself with this, but people are so they go straight to the foundation. So this is crazy when you think about it, how you putting it together. I know we're going to continue going down this path, but people are so into the foundation, building this solid foundation. I got this foundation. No one is doing the groundwork. And me being in construction, working with Silas Construction, probably one of the best concrete people in South Florida. Definitely. So if you all don't know, check out Silas Construction. Gillis over there, my guy. Listen.
Shout out to Eno.
Yeah, the beginning. So he's doing the concrete, but people don't see before that concrete gets put down, they have to dig several feet into the ground. They got to come and fill it up with good soil, etc. If the soil is not bad, they got to go get soil and bring it in to fill it up. Then you got to put your rebar in there. Then you got to call the inspection person to come check it. Then you got to spray it. Then it's a whole process before they even bring the concrete trucks in there. And then you got the guys who come and finish it, etc. But that groundwork part, that ground's making it happen. You don't just go out there with a concrete truck and just start putting the concrete down, because that will last less than a month. You wouldn't even get to curing. I've seen some concrete when people lay it down, within the first 2 weeks, you start to see the crack. I mean, immediately there's a crack in the concrete. Come on, brother. This is insane. Go ahead, brother.
That's where we at though, Mike.
Yeah,
that's where we are. And this is these are the telltale. This is the telltale signs of why relationships are just being devoured. They're just being devoured because they're just creating sinkholes. They're in that thing and they're doing, they're lightly stepping around things, or they're just moving around in the, happy-go-lucky, love, joy type of phase. And when things start to get real, all of a sudden, things start to break.
Yeah.
People start to break.
Yeah.
The foundation cracks. And next thing you know, you come home and half of your house, a quarter of your house has sunk into a sinkhole and you've lost it. You don't know how to get it back. And your mind is unrepairable.
Yeah.
And so you go and you check out the courthouse and you start to fill out some paperwork and you send it to the other one in the mailbox. And you say, they can take that to the bank.
And just for the record, 70 to 80% of the women are the ones who are doing that. But go ahead. 70 to 80% of all divorces are filed by women, but they're incentivized to do it. Well, that's a whole nother topic. Go ahead, brother.
So the foundation is important as well. The foundation is very important as well, because when you lay this foundation, you are laying it in your grounds, and that's shared grounds. So it has to be laid in truth and spirit and in truth. And what I mean by spirit is your attributes with honesty and integrity. So it has to be the two of the individuals honestly, openly, confidently laying the foundation. So there's no voids, there's no dark spots. Sometimes I'll find when I'm dealing with people that they'll be like, such and such just happened. But ain't nobody told me. What you mean it just happened? Well, it ain't really just happened. It's been like that for a few years. What you mean it's been like that for a few years? Somebody was holding back something, in some cases, because they felt like what they were holding back would hurt the other individual. So they were protecting them. And that protection ends up becoming dishonesty. And that dishonesty ends up going against integrity. And that integrity is the child of honesty. And now that there's honesty has been broken, that means the truth has been separated. And herein you have your first crack in your foundation, because truth is a part of the foundation, right? It's part of the foundation. So once that happens, you're walking on a split ground. On split ground, right? So this is was running the course. So all right. So now what we are building with, you got to build with fit materials, and fit materials are going to be knowledge, wisdom, understanding. These are the types of materials that you have to build with. I like to think of it like this: knowledge is something that you learn. Understanding is something that you gain, and wisdom is something that is intuitively applied once you have knowledge and understanding. So wisdom is begotten through knowledge, understanding, and experience.
Right.
Put those together, and all of a sudden you become wise, because you can, it's like every day you get up, you go outside, and you smell the moisture in the air, and you see leaves rustle across the ground. You look up in the sky, and it's cloudy. The clouds are hanging low. They're great. And you say, it's going to rain, right? This is something that you learn over time by applying all of those different things. So when it comes down to you building this relationship, though I 100% believe in love, because I think that it's a very strong feeling that definitely has its primary place inside of a relationship. But if you want your relationship to last long time, till death do us part, and not because you killed the other individual, but because y'all both died natural deaths after a long life, you have to apply knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because there will be days, even with there will be days that people will omit things, make mistakes. There will be times when they repeat mistakes. And there will be times when you are let down by them, or they can't be there for you when you felt like they should have been there for you. But if you apply knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and you begin to understand that life happens to everyone, not just you.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I guess that's the empathizer part for sure. That when you can understand that life is happening, just being able to forgive, and having mercy and giving grace, because that is huge within this entire dynamic. That's
Yes,
huge. That's huge within this entire dynamic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. So use those fit materials, because in order to build this relationship, you're going to need to use it at every given moment. Uh, um, and you're going to have to continue to use it. And whenever there's patchwork, you're going to have to use that for your patchwork. You have to use knowledge, wisdom, understanding. That's going to be your patchwork. Something breaks, something cracks, whatever. This is your patchwork. This is how you patch up things. And so that's what we're dealing with. I don't know if we may not be able to get to those 4 pillars. You want to dive into them, or you want to save that for the next show?
It's up to you, brother. I guess we could save it for the next show, because we're an hour in. I definitely have a couple of questions just based on already what we've kind of discussed, and so if you would indulge me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the meantime, let me see if I can put up this. I'm gonna put out this link. Hopefully it works. Hopefully I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna put this link out to see if anyone else wants to join in on the conversation. They can. Oh, didn't mean to do it like that.
By the way, I'm preparing this in book format for those y'all out there that want to really get into some more details about it, and I go into more detail inside of the book, but I'm preparing it, so we should have it edited and published within the next month or so. So, I'll definitely keep y'all informed out there, for those of y'all that are interested.
Awesome, brother, and I'm definitely, I can't wait for the book to come out. But this has been really eye-opening and eye-opening, and you've put it in such terms, because I'm starting to see it, because I definitely got to take a look with myself where a lot of the things are happening. And one of the things that I guess for me, and I guess the questioning is definitely in this groundwork portion of it, because I think that to me is one of the biggest missing key. That, and also, like, once again, the percentages of the 70 to 80% of divorces are being initiated by the woman in today's society. And this is more so than ever. I mean, obviously we're having more divorces than we've ever had before, because divorces have become more of a you're no longer ostracized. You're no longer ostracized for having a divorce. It's regular, and it's essentially it's acceptable. It's acceptable within our community, as opposed to what I think the acceptable thing should be is to start applying that patchwork. So the question is, since people tend to not probably see a marital counselor, and I guess really the statistic that we need to look up to is, and which I'm sure it'll be interesting, is if a person does see a marriage counselor who knows what they're doing, that their marriage would probably more than likely tend to last a whole lot longer, etc. We tend to be leaning on our own understanding, which at that time is more probably built out of that whole love / lust / bonding, some of it trauma bonding thing that goes along with these relationships. And I haven't asked the question yet. So my question is, once again, logical. Is that this? Can you go a little bit deeper into the business aspect of a marriage versus the love aspect, the emotional side of the marriage? I know we need to have a balance of both, but with the way that things are, and me being the analyzer, there's another question. But me being an analyzer, what do you think? What do you think in regards? Because I definitely don't think I need to love someone in order to marry him. Like I think the marriage will more so be for me would be more so about duty, um, coming to some type of agreement and cooperation. Let's look at some of these numbers for me, and I'm just gonna give you from my side of it is, and then this is for the average person. The average person, black male or the average American, let's say the average American is making it's like $35,000 a year. It's $35,000 a year. So let's give them a raise and put them at 50,000. We're giving everybody across the board a $50,000 raise.
I like it.
Right. And one of the things that you mentioned, once again, this is me, I'm more business and analytical. For the average person, marriage is more so a necessity than for most people than not, especially for the women's side of things. Because what we're starting to see is a lot more women who aren't going to be married, who aren't going to have the extra income, and who are essentially going to be dying alone. And this is already happening in countries like in Asia or Korea and over there, where I think they're called the unwanted or something. Is it something crazy? Not crazy, but it's something interesting like that. So I'm seeing a lot less. I'm seeing because of the way our culture is, where there's more so of a emphasis on the love and the happiness part. Once again, going back to this prosperity gospel, like God is going to put this 6'5" man that makes over $100 and something $1,000 a year, six packs, all everything in their lives that they're willing to not even entertain certain people. And let's be clear, 51 in the black community, 51% of men are childless and single. Okay, so it's 51%. So what a lot of the narrative that we hear, like these, black men have a bunch of babies and that's not necessarily the case. For the majority of men, 51% are childless and not married. And a lot of men are choosing not to be married. So I guess essentially the question is this. I know we're supposed to have a balance, but with the way the system is, because and we know this number is 70-80% is followed by the women. Like what I understand the balance. I'm understanding the balance part of it because you hear balance, but I think the empathizer and the love part has to take a back seat to it, especially when we're talking about a long-term commitment. Now, what do you think about that?
So I think that was two questions, really.
1,000 questions, but it's so much going on in my mind. Go ahead.
So, I wanted some clarification, though, as far as the business side of the marriage. Exactly what do you mean? As far as the last question that you had there, which was just, the empathetic portion of the relationship, as an analyzer, while you're working on your grounds, part of you, especially as an analyzer that understands the numbers and that is looking at the statistics of how, of how you believe or an analyzer believes a woman may work, then you would want to develop yourself to be at some point acceptant of some of that type of relationship. Because if not, then you will suffer, just like a woman would need to, she would need to understand in the grounds phase developing herself would have to understand that, that that the guy that she meets possibly is not concerned about so much about being loved, but actually companionship, and just, that type of individual. So there is a certain amount for both sides to understand the other person, and then that acceptance comes in. But when you say the business side of marriage, are you going like financial? What are you talking about?
Most definitely. Most men after a divorce, and I know I'm leaning to, but once again, the more than half of these marriages are ending in divorce. So most men after divorce are financially devastated, just due to the way that the family laws are about, where the women tend to get, especially if you're, I think in Florida, if you're married after 3 years, you have to pay alimony for X amount of time. Go ahead.
Because I feel like I know where this is going. And the thing about this is, it's like in the groundswork, and you pointed this out, and this was in a different, I've had this conversation before. I think I even did a TikTok on this. But when somebody hurts you, somebody does you wrong, there's three things that need to happen. They got to happen in order for you to move on. If not, then that scar stays there. And this is what I meant by groundwork. Um, Instead of a scar, let's just call it, if they throwing stones at you, rocks at you, that stuff lands inside your ground. You cannot plant inside that ground with those rocks being in the dirt. You can't build on it. You were just talking about, what has to happen with the ground and digging down. Before you even get to that, you got to clear the field. You got to get rid of the trees, the vegetation, the rocks. Sometimes there's huge rocks. You got to get a bulldozer in there to move those rocks out. You got to do that groundwork. So when somebody hurts you, it's just like leaving a boulder in your yard. And that thing is in your yard. And after time, vegetation grows up over it. You don't even recognize it's there. You forget about it. But it's there. It's still there. If you don't get rid of it, you will not be able to build on that land. You can't build on that land just for yourself, much less build with somebody else, because your grounds are filled with rocks. So what you have to do, and this is, for everybody out there, because this is a common concern amongst people everywhere, and just dealing with relationships. You got to forgive. I think you said this, Mike. You got to forgive that individual. I don't care. Yeah, but he, forgive him. But she, forgive him. But they, forgive him. That's where I'm headed to, Monique. You right on point.
And I totally disagree, but go ahead.
I'm headed there. Maybe not in that form, but I'm headed there in a little bit. So we're getting there. A lot of people tell me I take the scenic route. So you have to forgive them. Next, you have to forgive yourself. And third, you have to let it go. This is how you get rid of things. Because if not, you will constantly have this thought inside of your mind that at the end of this relationship, hence marriage, there will be divorce. The statistics show that this is what's happening. Divorce is coming. And when trouble arises, there may be a thought somewhere in the back, man, it don't look good. I don't know how we're going to get out of this. Yep, we're probably going to end up getting divorced. So if you want to have a good, lasting relationship, you're going to have to project that good, lasting relationship into your life. And you're going to have to work this thing from day one till day end, from A to Z, from 1 to infinity. And this is a key thing, because I don't care if you're an analyzer, if you're an empathizer, it does not matter at all at that point in time. Once you've decided to join into this type of relationship, It's got to be that. So this is why the groundwork is so. Mike, this program should just be on groundwork.
Right. No, one listen, I'm with you 1,000%. And then first off, Monique, I love your Facebook picture, cousin. You look wonderful in the Facebook picture. So let me start off by saying that I'm looking at it because it's blown up on the screen. So
Yeah, awesome.
I want to give you props for your Facebook photo. I'm loving it. You're glowing in there, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that you shouldn't marry and plan for divorce. Listen, 1,000%. I you should go through it. So that being said, are we what do you think about prenups?
So okay, prenups is one of those. That's like this gray area. This is like when they asked Moses for divorce, right? When Jesus sat down and had this conversation, and he looks at them, he said, listen, these guys coming up, they say, well, if a woman was married to one man, and that one man died and didn't give a son, and then her brother married him, and then he died and didn't give a son, and then the other brother married him, and he died. I don't know if y'all remember this parable.
Yeah. Who's her husband in heaven?
Yeah, and he's like, listen, there's no giving of marriage. There's no giving or taking, So prenups, what are we talking about? We're talking about a plan just in case we're going to get divorced. That's what a prenup is, which means I don't feel like doing the groundwork. I'm going to run my life the way I'm going to run it, and you're going to have to be a part of my life the way I run it. If you don't like it, then I'm secure. But if I am going, and listen, Mike, what I'm giving you, what I'm not necessarily you, but what I'm giving to the people here today is this understanding. There still can be, blackouts, individuals that have the ability to hide their face and for a long time and still be able to ruin a marriage. But if you have done the groundwork on your own mind and on your own heart, and you are vetting people, because remember, if you do this groundwork, you are looking for somebody else that has done groundwork too. Why would you go through all of that trouble to do all that groundwork and then just go pick up a trophy down the street? That doesn't make sense, that you would utilize so much effort inside of yourself and then go and settle for somebody who is superficial. Doesn't mean that people won't do this. Don't get me wrong. You get locked into somebody's abs and their waistline, and next thing you know, people go blind. But vet them, because essentially, all right, amen. Because essentially, what you have done when you completed your own groundwork is you have vetted yourself. That's what you did.
1,000%. And so I agree with that. And I always say that it starts with the man and it ends with the man. So, even whatever happens, it's your fault. However,
hold on. Let me put this out there. And I think that I mentioned that this last week. Okay. Because love is a very powerful thing, and I want to enter into this. I don't, like I said, when it comes to building this thing up, I don't want to tell people to just follow after this mysterious love type of thing. Love is a very real thing, and when we go outside of Webster's dictionary, love is it becomes almost like a tangible feeling, if you understand what I mean. It can move things because love has the ability to last forever. The way a mom loves her child, beyond reproach, right? And so to be able to have that type of love for another individual that is not a blood relation is extremely powerful when it's pure. when it's true love, not that, fake, love that they got out there, that teenage love affair type of thing. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the love that is commitment, the love that is compassion, the love that is, sacrifice, the love that is longevity, the love that suffers, the love that is willing to give, the love that is willing to give and give more, right? So when we get to that type of love that is true, honest, and enduring, at that point in time, when it shows up, it can cause even the most analytical individual to stop in their tracks. There was an occasion years back, when I was going through something that was so devastating inside of my life, so devastating up until that day. It was crazy devastating. And during that time, I didn't know which way to go, how to go, with all that I understood, with all that I knew. I've got an issue, Mike. I got one of these types of issues where I can analyze this thing and I can know exactly what I'm doing. And that's what was happening. I know exactly what I need to do, but bringing myself to do that was beyond me. I was making a choice. I just was not going to do it. And in that time, in that period of time, I felt as if I could, I talk about that sixth sense. I felt as if I was being prodded to put my burden on my wife. And this was the strangest of things. I'm telling you, just as sure as we're talking right now, I was sitting inside of a grocery store and I was about to go meet somebody that I had not seen in decades. That meant a lot to me. And on that day, that was my message. And so I sat there, and my wife, she went to the restroom and came back. And when she came back, it's hard to explain it for those y'all who don't understand how love can be this tangible feeling. Maybe you won't catch this, but I literally just put this burden on her. Just like, listen, I'm just giving this all to you. And not so much as explaining things like we're talking right now. It was just this weird type of, I'm just giving you everything. And she hugged me and I felt the love and my burden, my pain, everything lifted. I was sitting in that grocery store with shortness of breath and beginning to feel as if I was going to have a heart attack. And all of a sudden, it was gone. This same individual, after I made some of the most egregious errors inside of our life, showed back up again and loved me. This is what love can do. And so it has its place. That's right. It is needed inside of a marriage. That's right. That's why it is so strong. And so part of what the tools that I'm giving out tonight is for the very reason that most people don't even know what that is. They don't even know what that is. They believe they have something, and as soon as the faults come, the trouble comes, the day rises, and it's a difficult day. As you said before, 70%, 72% are looking for divorce because
50,
they did not.
50 something percent are looking, but the women, 80% of women initiate the divorce. 52 to 54% of marriages end in divorce.
52% end in divorce because that love was not mutual, and it may have not been real for one or the two. Love endures, and you get decades of marriage because these tools that I'm passing out today, but love ultimately does endure, and it encompasses these tools.
Listen, brother, so eloquently spoken. You and Monique are on the same wavelength, and 1000%. Love endures. It sure does. That type of love that you're speaking of, and you spoke to it a little bit in regards to, most people don't feel that. Definitely the ones in that 52 to 54% who are having these divorces, and definitely the 70 to 80% of the women who are initiating divorces don't necessarily have that love. Okay, because otherwise, then they would, you would kind of figure it out. And love, like you explained before, is something is not necessarily tangible. Love is a feeling, and if you can have it, my computer's doing something weird. If you have this love, then I can, that's like a dessert. Just like happiness, like you're married and this person, in your mind you say this person makes you happy. But let's just say this love. That's the dessert of it. But the main course is, to me, and is the love is a verb and a noun. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading. Monique, you popping up in like 30 different places for me right now. Let me dismiss that. Okay, perfect. Nope, didn't work. Give me 1 second, because I got something that just keeps popping up. Turn off all notifications for email. Okay, boom, here we go. So love is not tangible. It's not something you can just grab. There's nothing, you can't write down the requirements of this is what love essentially is. Like you can't say, and everyone says this is what it is to them. Everyone's going to have their own different feelings of the way that they feel. It's probably only the most eloquent of people can explain it. You almost got to be Shakespearean-like. You got to be a real wordsmith. What is down there and the vows that you take and the duties that you take are explicit and it's plain as day. So to me, like, all you have to do if you want this thing to continue is to look at the duties and what the criteria. What are the vows that you took? What are your duties in this relationship? Everyone's duties are different. I'm not saying that women need to mop floors and stay barefoot and pregnant and clean, cook. Like, I'm not saying that. But essentially, when you're laying that the foundation of the marriage, these things should have been discussed. Whatever the duties are, the issue may come about when people are no longer performing said duties. Then the things can be essentially be addressed. So for me personally, just being analytical, I'm all for the love piece of it. I think it's a dope thing to have someone that you can say that you love and you have this love for. Hey, love is great. People be in love. It's the dessert for me, though. You understand what I mean? Essentially, my main meal has to be just based upon. Hold on, let me pull this up for you, brother, because you wrote it. These fit materials, the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom. Because even without that necessarily that love that you speak of, which is a powerful, powerful thing, like the love of a mother to the child. If you can just, since we can't quantify the love piece, you can quantify this knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, this grace that you're giving people, this mercy that you're giving people, the attempts to understand those people. And we're kind of going off far from my question. And because I wanted to defend it as well, was the prenup situation, especially for men. And I say especially for men because women are filing 70 to 80% of the divorces. And I've been in situations, I'm a realtor, so I've been there and represented people who were being divorced. I've been at the closing table when they come in and they split the money up, and this guy, essentially had this home prior to having the wife, and then all of a sudden they're splitting, and she takes half of everything that he has, and he has to go back and live in a small apartment, or go back and live with his parents or roommate situation or whatever. Like, I've seen it. And a lot of this stuff is not because they're properly prepared. If this marriage is a business, which we discussed from the beginning, because it is a contract then signifies business. When you go into a contractual relationship the way that it is now, why not? Like, what's the problem with having a person sign a prenup stating, exactly how this thing will go, and come to that understanding? What I don't necessarily, there's not a problem to it, because I think everyone's going to have their own thing. There's not necessarily a problem, but I definitely think that once you have something, like in my age, I'm 38 years old, like, we have to sign a prenup. Like, you should protect what you have, the assets that you had prior, and I'll protect the assets I have prior. I'm not planning for a divorce, but this should just be a part of the contractual obligation, or the contract that you signed with the state/government. Just like the marriage certificate. You sign a marriage certificate to make this marriage legal, and you can get the benefits of the marriage. The prenup should go along with it. Matter of fact, it should be front and back. It should be front and back. Signature, whatever. Just like I also think that it should be mandatory DNA test at the birth of a child, but that's another conversation as well.
I feel like you're making good points, very good points, and I definitely can understand where you're coming from. And I think that if you've done the appropriate groundwork and you're vetting the individual well, then you'll end up with the individual that is in agreement with you in this.
Right.
Remember, this is so again,
it goes back to the groundwork. 1,000%. That groundwork piece I'm cutting you off, but that groundwork piece is
everything.
It's everything. And then, getting right with yourself, and that vetting process, bringing a person like you, a marital counselor, person like you, into the fold. I would even go as far as suggesting, once you get into the marriage mindset, to have a conversation with you before you even go out there and start looking. Like, I think even like as a part of your groundwork, go see a marriage counselor and have those conversations. That way you're not even out here courting 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6 months, a year, whatever time frame it is. And then you've felt this way. Now you've got this feeling, and then you're bringing them into the marriage counselor. And the marriage counselor may or may not say, hey, this may not necessarily be, in your own, you may give the opinion of, hey guys, you both have still got a lot of, this person may have more work to do with it, whatever. I don't know how you would say it, not to make one person feel bad or not, but it's like this may not necessarily work at this time. You both are great people. But this person is already vested, because that's what happens. Men vest their resources and their time into I agree. Men vest their resources and time into and a woman does as well. Vest their resources and their time. And time, for most women is their biggest resource, because they have a smaller window for certain biologically certain things, if that's what they intend on doing. I see what Monique said. I think most people should have therapy. I think most people should have therapy, period. But I think most people should have therapy, period. But I think this is dope, man. That groundwork piece is groundbreaking. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Because I think we definitely just jump straight into foundation. Like we already ready to build. You know what I mean? Like, we're ready to build because we met this person, probably for the initially aesthetically pleasing to us, to our eye, or some people has whispered the greatest things, or we're out seeking certain things. There's a lot of issues that people have, and they're seeking these things in other people, and they're latching on to a person who has this and not taking other things into consideration. I guess that's the question. because the Bible says the man who finds the wife finds a good thing. What should the woman be doing in the meantime? Because she has to be a wife in order to be found. Correct. So what I like to hear your thought process on that for on the women's side of it, just possibly giving them some insight in saying, okay, the Bible says that a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So he has to find a wife. In that aspect, the woman should be a wife prior to him finding her. So what is your thought process on some certain things in regards to a woman and the wife aspect of it?
So I mean, Mike, really, like we were talking about, this self-awareness is really where it is. Whether it doesn't matter, and that's why I gave it like that, because it won't make a difference whether it's the woman or whether it's the man. When you get ready to enter into this agreement, this relationship, and for those of y'all out there that their focus is on the love, it's not to take the love away from this, because when you have the love, it's a complete conqueror. When both people have honest and earnest love, you're not going to run into so many troubles, right? But when you have people that are coming together and they're trying to make it work, you're going to end up with difficulties. When we have done the groundwork, if the ladies are doing the groundwork and they know who they are, and they are also willing to accept not just their own flaws, but the flaws of the other individual, and they're willing to make those types of sacrifices, you're going to find the same types of results that men will find in this relationship. Because many a times what it comes down
Keep going,
to,
brother. I gotta go. Let me go see what he's going on. I'm gonna put you. I thought I switched you over.
That's all right. Don't make me dizzy in here, right? But many a times what we're going to end up finding out is that through this whole course, right? Through this whole course of looking and courting for a man, for the ladies, they're looking and courting for a man. And it depends. Some women are highly emotional, and then there's some women that are not highly emotional, and they are willing to just be in that relationship just because this was the one that they chose, and they're going to stick in it no matter what. But when we find ourselves in this situation, I feel like we need to go into the pillars for this, because it's going to start to break down into different types of things. Like, you have that good relationship that you have developed in the very beginning. Now it's going to take some of these other pillars that you're going to need, So communication, compassion, compromise, and commitment. You're going to need all these different types of things. And those are the four pillars. The four C's.
You see, I got, there it is.
So those are the 4 C's. So when these ladies are getting into these relationships, there's got to be this type of communication. Now, when you've done your groundwork, and ladies, you put in the time to make sure that you understand yourself, and you know your self-worth, and you also know what you're willing to give. You need to know what you're willing to receive. So here is where it breaks down once again in the groundwork, going into foundation. Right in between there, you know what you're worth. You know it, ladies. Y'all know what you're worth. And so there's no reason to down that or play that small for any reason for anybody. Don't play it small. You know what you're worth. So now that you know what you're worth, you also need to know what you're willing to give and what you expect to receive. Now, by no means should you enter into this type of relationship, like a marriage, expecting to receive something that is not being given. It ain't coming.
Hold on, fellas, know your worth as well.
Yes. Well, Mike, you asked me a one-sided question.
No. 1,000%.
Right.
But I love the way that you answered it. I think just in the way that the way that today's society is, like, there's this thought process that I think, because then this gets into a different conversation, especially when we talk about submission, etc. But there's this thought process of a wife, and then the first thing that most people think of for a man when he's thinking about a wife is thinking about this old thing of where this wife, she just does this. Like this is the exact way that this thing. And so the way that the society is now, because most often both parents are in the work, are working. Like once again, the average household, not once again, but the average household in America is making 60 something thousand. I think it's $65,000 a year. That's both incomes. So we both know that $65,000 a year is. I mean, you're still probably doing paycheck to paycheck almost in most cities and most counties. Definitely here in Palm Beach County. If you're making 60 to 65,000, you're kind of just brushing the surface of kind of living. I mean, we're better in the third world country, but you don't have a excess or overflow at that amount. So I can empathize with a woman who's like, so I got it. So you're telling me I got to go out there and work. I got to come home. I got to pay half of the bills, and I got to perform all these, these so-called duties, as opposed to thinking about, just getting yourself right, understanding what your worth is, and then as a part of the conversation of laying the foundation of this is how it's going to be, as opposed to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be these traditional roles that, probably our parents didn't even live these traditional roles. Like a lot of the ways that we think of what a wife and a husband does was done back when the husband was bringing home the bulk of the money and the wife didn't have to work. It was a single income household, and they were able to I don't know if they thrived, but they definitely survived pretty well. They survived, and they had multiple children. I mean, the father was working. There was like 4 or 5 kids at the house. That's what you think of when you think about those back in the day type scenarios. Now, both the mother and the father have to go off to work. Now, this is where the cooperation piece comes in. Like there has to be that cooperation of, let's figure this out. How do we figure this out? And not only just figure it out for now, but also figure it out for the future. Because essentially you all don't want, I would hope, most people don't want to be working till they're 70, 80, 90 years old, or living off of such a small income when they're 70 years old that that they barely can buy anything in the store, or they may be forced to take on another job at 65, 70 years old, because they don't have enough money saved up, etc. So like I said, I think at this point in time, it's almost a necessity for most people, and I think for women, definitely, I think only 9%, I want to say 9% of women make over $75,000 a year. So making less than $75,000 a year with everything that's going on is not enough to retire on. So that's just me being a little bit more pragmatic about, of how we can start to have these different conversations, and these conversations and start to change the narrative of what they think, of what people think these traditional roles are and duties are, and how to kind of come together and figure it out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the thing about it is like, so what we're talking about, this overall conversation, y'all, is about relationships, and then it goes into a relationship of a marriage. There's a lot of things that are popping up, and and that maybe that's the reason why I felt like we need to start with groundwork, because groundwork is so important. The thing about this is that when it comes down to a relationship must be nurtured. Must be nurtured.
Yeah.
You must take care of that relationship. It's like having a child. You take care of your child. If you don't take care of your child, bad things happen. It's like having a plant. If you don't water your plant, bad things happen. It's like taking care of your house. If you don't take care of your house, bad things happen. Whatever you have, whatever you enter into, bad things happen when you do not nurture it. And so when it comes down to this marriage, that's what has to happen. So with all of these, with many of these questions and concerns that have come up, those things are worked out first with the individual. And so many a time when there's a failure or a fall inside of a relationship, It is not just the one individual, but it's the two. So let me give it to you like this. And you know how many people can drive a vehicle at one time? you know just
Uno.
one.
Right.
That's it. So if two people are in a vehicle, they decided that they want to be together and they get in a vehicle, only one person can drive. There must be an agreement.
That we're going to the same place. That's big.
And then the second thing is where are you going? Because if the two individuals decide they don't want to go to the same place, how they going to even ride together? One can't ride with the other one and go. No. So this agreement, it works because both people have decided to listen. I'm gonna throw the word submission out there, but they are submitting themselves to one another.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge thing, They are submitting themselves to one another. Somebody's got to drive. Someone's got to drive this thing, And in my household, I'm driving. That's the way I run my household. But this is also the way that my wife receives me and accepts me. And I guarantee, I tell her she can come in here. When she's got the idea and she's got the right path, I shut my mouth and let's go. I have learned enough to know that when she is right, she's right. And I need to just go ahead and take that to the bank. Because if not, there's failures looming. Everything ain't got to be my way just because I'm a man. That's not how it is. And Monique, you're right on point. That's the fourth pillar right there. Compromise. This is how you keep your relationship together. And I'll tell you this, and I think I mentioned this on the last episode when we got to it. I had this conversation with a bunch of pastors at one point in time, and they were asking me about it, and that's when the 3 C's first came up. But since then, I've added a fourth one. But the compromise, one of those individuals came back to me years and years later. And he said, when you told me compromise, I thought to myself, not me. And then he went home and something happened and he realized he needed to compromise. And when he did, things got better. So again, in between, it's 18 inches, y'all. It's between the mind and the heart. The greatest battles are won between those 18 inches. If you can win that battle with inside yourself, there is nothing that you cannot do. And there is no relationship that should be able to break you if you have that type of fortitude. Because when you enter into this relationship like a marriage, the first C is commitment. You are committing to be there. Like Michael says, the vows, you have pledged to be there till death do us part, for richer and for poor, for better, for worse, sickness and health. That's the gamut. What are we talking about? So if I'm living underneath a bridge, hey, baby, you here with me. Yeah, it sucks, but we're going to get out of this thing together.
Yeah.
There's no leaving. So before you even lay a foundation, you need to think about that, because this is what you must do. It's an all or nothing right here. And that's why we started off talking about this thing with Adam and Eve, because he said, for this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, because he will never leave her. So when it came up that there was trouble in the garden,
y'all both got to go.
Everybody was pointing fingers, but Adam and Eve left together, y'all.
Y'all both got to go. Both of y'all gotta go. Listen, this was an excellent conversation. One of the things that needs to come to the forefront, especially with the narrative of the 52%, because these are just numbers at the end of the day, and a lot of things have to be taken into context. And I'm just poking and prodding with my brother over there, because I know he has such a solid thought process and this ideal and this whole framework that he's put together is so solid. So I'm messing with him a little bit, but I think essentially what I'm gonna tell you what we need to do when we start to, especially when we start to think about these different situations, is we really need to look at the company that we keep. I think no, seriously, a lot of marriages, relationships, etc., can be changed when you are dealing with a certain kind of people. If you're around a bunch of married people, you know what I mean, and you're in a marriage and it's kind of shaky, then you can go to that person, you can go to some other married couples or whatever, or a marriage counselor, whatever it may be. You just got to be around the right people. But if you are around, and this is why I tell people to be careful. Be careful when you have when you're in a marriage and you are around single people all the time, because when you have an issue with their marriage or divorced people, whatever the case, I'm just being honest with you. When you get into situations, you start to lean on these different thought processes. That's why social media is so powerful, and you start to have these different thoughts because you're intaking all of this information. And if this person is not in a marriage, or this person decided to get divorced for whatever reason, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that when you tend to be around some other married couples that tend to work it out, and they have words of encouragement for you, you need to be married. People should be 1,000%. Married people should be around other successful, and so that has to start coming out, because what's getting louder now are these different things, and that's why it's gonna, it will continue to go in that kind of range, because at one point in time, at least in my lifetime, it was like at 47% or 40%, excuse me, marriages ended in divorce. Now it's at 54%. But the people who tend to be the loudest tend to be the most bitter, tend to be the most angry. And because they didn't their situation didn't work, or they didn't work on their situation, so it didn't work, they're starting to put that on everybody else's. So once again, I'm poking and prodding with my brother with this stuff. I still do believe in prenups, though. That's one thing. I think you got to play the game. But excuse me. We definitely have to start looking at being around the right people and having these conversations. And from the beginning, if I can end my point for the night, is that groundwork, people. That groundwork is so important. Before you lay that foundation, before you do that, go see somebody. Go see Joe. Have that conversation. Like, listen, I'm marriage minded now. I'm thinking about marriage. I want to find that person. Let's have what kind of things should I be looking for? What you know me, or we'll have this conversation for you to get to know me. What do you? I'm lacking this to get that bigger mindset, to find out who you are, working on you, and that way when you go out to go into the marketplace, so to speak, to find your wife or to find your husband, you can really do that. And then once again, vet some more, and then vet again, and then bring them to Joel to vet a little bit longer. That's it. That's my piece.
I got you. I love this. I love this. Monique is hitting all of the. She's hitting all of the.
Monique, have that conversation.
She's hitting them, because communication is very strong. I want to put this out there, because you mentioned a few things. For those of y'all that are out there that are married now, it's very important that you start to pass the message on to your children. You want to develop them.
Yeah.
Groundwork starts as soon as life enters into the earth. Now, I should say, as soon as it enters into the womb, because there's even conversations, and there's even things that are passed on, from mother to child, and even outward. interferences or outward, voices and people like fathers and siblings and whatnot that help to start to develop a unborn baby's mind. So all of these things are very powerful and very influential. So start early. If you want, my wife, she loves to she loves to cook. She loves to wash clothes, and I can't even touch the clothes. But you know what? My mother taught me how to wash clothes and iron my own clothes. So when we got together, I was like, "What? You gonna do my clothes? I do my own clothes." I don't need anybody to do my clothes. I'm a grown man. I iron my own shirt too. But when it came down to cooking, I was like, "All right, baby, let's eat."
You got it.
But all I'm getting at with this whole last little tidbit is just that, you know, teach your children, teach them how to, teach them how to be independent, because part of the issues that we found in some of the older couples that were unable to make it, and many people that are, in their 40s and 50s that have been married 3-4 times, or 60s. Oh my gosh, many of these people, that have been through all these different types of relationships, they never learned any of this stuff. And because of the way things are moving in this type of world today, there's plenty of options. Women don't have to settle for the man that's inside of their neighborhood.
Nope.
They don't have to do that. They have far reach. So guys out there, if you're playing a certain type of game, and you think that you're going to be able to get it playing a game that is that doesn't work into this whole type of relationship type of thing, be cautious, because the women will skip over you. And for the women that are out there and they're flaunting, and playing a different type of game that attracts people, loosely, then be cautious, because the name is being spread, amongst people, and the good guy or the good gal that y'all are looking for may not be receptive to you, especially if they do this that we are talking about tonight. If every individual does groundwork, then there will be no room for the people that are not doing groundwork. You know what I mean? And so for those that are like what we call train wrecks, for those that are train wrecks, they will have each other. Because
that might be the train wreck is almost like you saying that to me is like a curse word. Like
well, I don't mean it that way. People that aren't doing groundwork.
Right,
if they're not doing groundwork and they're unconcerned,
right,
about making the relationship truly work, and they're unconcerned about who they are in general, then they can enter into the relationship with that unconcernment, and they generally will find someone else who is unconcerned. I think you said it a little bit better than I just a moment ago when you said you are who you are around.
Yeah. And I think to add to that is definitely there has to be that distinction. And the distinction is in the people who are doing the groundwork. That way you can kind of, because like you said, there's a far reach for it, but like once again, for whatever reason, our society tends to magnify and glorify some of these negative images, and then you got some of the people who possibly could be doing the groundwork who tend to go along with the narrative of this is what this person wants, this is what this person wants. We're here to tell you that this is not what people want. A lot of the things that we see that that's popularized, etc., is not necessarily what I think most people want. People are doing the groundwork and people aren't doing the groundwork. So if you're out there and you're attempting to be this, marriage minded or heading in this direction of attempting to or wanting to be married, being that wife, being that husband, you don't necessarily have to be this popular, what society tells you. This is what this looks like. This is what a man looks like. This is what a woman looks like. or this is what a man goes after. Because that's not, in my estimate, it's not the truth. It's not the truth at all.
I like it. Love it.
Awesome. Listen, I see Monique says it fortifies that she's ready. I'm glad she got some things out of it. Listen, like and share this.
Like
very, very powerful conversation. So next week we'll be coming back and talking about the 4 C's.
Yeah, I mean, we started to dig into it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely got into it, so we can bring that back. You know,
right?
We can go back into the 4 pillars, and maybe we need to, you know, come up with another subject to go along with it. But I don't know. It may take a deep dive.
Yeah, let's take a deep dive into it. This is deep. I think this is a lot of what you're talking about is what is needed. There's a brother. You know, listen, people. If you want to make money, invest in dog and cat food, because there's going to be a lot of single people, and more specifically, a lot of single women.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, and but because they're not getting married, you know. So over the ages of 30, from the age of 35 on up, and there's not, because there's not enough men out there. Once again, 51% of men are unmarried and without children. 61% of them are 61% are in the middle class. That's in our community. That's within our community. They may be overlooked because of what social media tells you what a man is supposed to look like, but that's not necessarily what a man. You know not what a man, but that's not necessarily what it is. Some good men are being overlooked. So, and I know a lot of good men that get overlooked. But so definitely some interesting stuff. Excellent conversation. Let's dive deep into it, man. It's needed. Yeah. It's needed. Awesome, brother. So let me put your information up here once again for the most awesome dad.
yes.
Mr. Joel Simmons. Let me see if I got it. Check him out on TikTok. There we go, the Motivatorpreneur. For those of you who are on TikTok, check him out. And then, of course, we have his LinkedIn, which, maybe you can do a Bit.ly link, shorten it, but I don't know how, because I don't think people can actually copy and paste it. But look him up on LinkedIn. It's Joel Simmons, spelled just like this. It'll pop up. The most awesome dad. Hopefully we'll get him on Facebook very, very soon. I'm excited about that.
I'm putting in that work in the background, brother.
Yeah, so I know you are.
There's a lot of stuff that's on the horizon. So we've been really busy, shaking and moving and making these things happen. And so I'm really excited about it. And shout out to my man right there, Michael Seville. A great inspiration in my life and best friend. I love him, dear brother.
Brother.
Yeah, man, this is good stuff. I'm enjoying this, and thank you for inviting me to be in this joint venture. This was amazing, and for those that are out there that even matters to, I started this thing, what I'm doing now, this motivational speaking and life coaching, because it was a passion of mine. And Mike didn't just come to me and ask me to to do a show. He didn't do that, He was just listening to some of my conversations every once in a while. And all of a sudden he just said, man, brother, we got to do a show. And that was it. And so I took that as a great compliment. It wasn't just because we were friends. So I greatly appreciate it. And I'm enjoying what he's doing too. You got what is that, a Wednesday show?
Monday
show is a civil discourse.
Civil discourse, yeah. We do our Monday show, civil discourse. Enjoying it. Last Monday was fire. So if you get a chance to go back and check out what I spoke about last Monday, great show. The brother was on the show. Joel was on the show with me, and got a chance to glean off of some of the information. Listen, if you know someone or you yourself are thinking about doing or getting into real estate, buying, selling, or renting, it's always a great time to deal with real estate, people. It's always a great time. Of course, you can reach out to me, schedule an appointment, and let's talk real estate. Let's see how we can get you aligned with the goals that you want. Definitely to lay that foundation, man. Other than that, this has been a great show, man. I appreciate you all checking in. Monique, love you to death.
Awesome.
Once again, people, the community beacon, man, shining our light. We're here to enlighten people. So check in with us, and appreciate you all as always. See you next week.
All right. Peace.